Okay, good. Yep. So it'll be a little more informal, so feel free to ask questions along the way. Many of you are planning for 2025 right now, so I want to kind of give you guys, some of these are going to be predictions as to what's to come in 2025 as far as marketing strategies go, and some of these are established already, and also kind of let you guys know how to navigate, how to put together your marketing plan for 2025. So if we really look at the overall landscape, oops, there we go. Here, 1 second. You're working. Sorry, 1 second here. There we go. Okay, good. So this does worry me quite a bit. Nothing new to you guys. During COVID, I kind of call those couple years really much just outlier years. But whenever I talk to funeral directors, they still are comparing their numbers to the peak. And it's time we all just be very, very realistic. With the pulled forward effect, it's going to continue on for a while. So if we look at this here is you should be really going back and comparing to 2019, 18 numbers. If you're doing better than 18 and 19, you're actually doing better, actually rising, you're actually in a good shape. And I only have a few very, very unicorn clients that just continue to go up, but it's very, very unicorn. So the reason I'm going through this with you is don't beat yourself up if you're not meeting your super outrageous goals for this year. And this does worry me quite a bit, is if we don't do anything for the next few years, this is what might happen here is, first of all, call volume might continue to go down because you're getting more competition, right? You're getting more direct cremation businesses popping up all the time. The corporates are getting better. Your competitors, everyone is getting better in doing marketing. And macroly, that will still continue to be just a flat year, more or less. And cremation's on the rise, right? Cremation's on the rise. There's nothing we can do about it. So overall, what does worry me is the overall revenue per call continues to decline. So effectively is this very, very down version, what Chris would be cringing at. But really is, if you look at the overall P&L, is the revenue will go down if you don't do anything about it. Expenses are way up. We're all business owners here. Expenses are up. No matter what, expenses are up. So this really is very, very troublesome. If we don't do anything about this, year to year, your net profit will continue to go down. So what we need to do is really reflect how can we get the overall net profit to go up. So overall is, of course, we want to find strategies to increase your call volume. But more critically is to really try to figure out how to increase your revenue per call. That's why Terry has great solutions. You got to be getting better at the arrangement room in upgrading. I don't call it upsell. You got to be figuring out how to be upgrading families into other solutions that you do offer. And you also, these days, it's easier and better to be looking at call volume, right? You got to be tracking the overall call volume and really figure out when the pie is less, the pie contracted, do you still have that 25%? Because the call volume will be down. So it's better to be looking at the overall pie. Do you still own that market share? And to me, it's actually very hard to be even year in, year out to be owning the same market share. Because if you don't do anything, the pie will continue to contract. So what I'll be going over with you guys today is to give you some ideas on how to increase your revenue per call, how to control expenses, and overall how to increase your net profit. That's probably the not call volume, right? Funeral directors love to brag. I did 1,000 calls last year, but if all those are direct cremation, they're not that much, right? So Okay, so let's really switch gear and talk about overall marketing strategies for 2025. Overall, offline is still king. Offline marketing is still the most critical thing that you guys still got to continue to deploy. Digital, it's really nice to have, but it's not the holy grail. And I always cringe whenever funeral directors started shifting everything online from marketing point of view. They no longer go out there and network at all. They direct mails used to do very well, and they stopped doing mailers. So I want to ask guys one simple question. Mailers used to pull very well, 3%. These days, at best, 1%, maybe, at best, 1%, right? And why is that? It's the same exact direct mail piece. Same exact direct mail piece. Why is it pulling less today? Any wild guesses? Same direct mail piece, yeah.
So there are two issues. One, postal service.
Mhm.
It's not actually getting to the intended receiver,
Okay.
or it's getting very delayed.
Okay.
Secondly, is that we almost get no real mail, as I call it. We get nothing but junk mail. So you take
Okay.
everything out of the mailbox and it goes right to the recycle bin.
Mhm.
You don't even sort through it because there's nothing there.
Good.
So that direct mail piece has not even been looked at, has gone directly to recycle.
Sure. Any other thoughts? Why mailers are not pulling as well? Definitely, those are definitely correct. Okay. But we're actually getting less mail pieces these days. We're actually getting less mails compared to 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So if you really think about the overall behavior with mailers, it still works. It's the same exact direct mail piece. Just these days, when you get direct mails, you're sorting through your kitchen, right? Let's say your kitchen top. You're putting A pal, B pal, C pal, same as before. The behavior has not changed. It either goes into the recycling bin or you open it up. Nothing has changed. It's just these days, that same direct mail piece, once you receive it, if it intrigues you enough, you're pulling out this tiny little device, you're Googling it, you're going on their website, you check them out. Instead of in the past, there's not that many options. It's business reply mail or call. So it's so easy to track in the good old days. Outreach is easy to track. These days, once they open up this device, it's much harder to track. That's why I still believe it's the same exact open rate, same exact response rate. It's just hard to track the actual response rate these days. That's why these days, you got to be doing both. That's the tricky part. You got to be doing offline and online together. And the tricky part now is there's so many options. Everyone's confused. Which one should you focus on first? Next, right? And deploying a bunch of different things and trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work is I kind of want to go over with you so far what's been working and what hasn't been working so far. Which of these strategies should be deployed a little bit later on. So today I want to help you avoid a lot of shiny object syndrome. You heard a lot about OTT, geofencing, bunch of these new terminologies that keeps on coming out. And some of those strategies so far, do they work? Yeah, they work, but it's in branding, right? But as I keep on going back, it's going to be a little more difficult the next few years until the baby boomers really do contribute to death rate. And that might be realistically end of the decade or beginning of next decade. So the next few years, you really got to be very, very wise. You got to continue to gain market share, but there's not a whole lot of marketing dollars these days. Where do you put that money? So this really is the funnel here. If you're really focusing on ad needs, there's not that many strategies. So let me kind of explain the workflow here, the overall journey. So what I typically like to focus on is to reach out to those who are already problem aware. They're looking for you already. So what does problem aware means? So Sydney, just for fun, let's say this is your leaky roof back in the 90s. How do you look up roofers back in the 90s? Yellow pages. That's what, right? So simple back then. Problem where you're looking for roofer, plumber, funeral home, you go straight to the yellow pages. And curious, again, if you flip through yellow pages, how do you know which roofer to call? There's so many of them.
Hopefully you've heard of one or
Okay?
maybe.
Hopefully you heard of one, right? So that's why a lot of roofing companies, they do a lot of like print ads, they are on newspaper, they're on billboards, they're everywhere. Door hangers. That's why then when you go to yellow pages, you're looking at more like a white pages. It's like I heard of this company, right? That's why branding still does work, right? But these days, same situation. How do you look up roofers? This tiny little device, right? We just Google it, right? So not that different for funeral homes. If there's a problem where imminent need, near need, typically families, they go straight to this. They go on Google, they type in funeral home near me. They might type in Houston, they're here in Houston, they might type in Houston cremation services. That's why so far, Google is still king so far. Not Facebook, not social media. Social media, I'll talk a lot more. It's going to be strategies up here. Social media is very great. Outreach is good to get your name out there. So that way more and more communities, more families know about you to drive more preneed leads. If your main intention is to protect your market share and focus on gaining market share on the at-need side, it's going to be Google. So I'll spend a little more time with you guys how Google works and what's changing the following year. And all these, eventually traffic flows through to your website. Offline, online, eventually it'll come to your website. Even that direct mail Ps, once they receive it these days, they Google your business name, they go straight to your website. If your website is lousy, it doesn't talk about who you are, what you do, how you're different, they're just going to exit and go to somebody else. So we're going to give you a quick checklist that you can go home and look at your website and see, hey, some of these conversion factors, do you have it on your website? Then most likely before they call, all of us were checking reviews. And John talked a lot yesterday about reviews. You got to be focused on reviews. There's no if or buts. You just got to figure out how to get more reviews. And I'll give you guys a few more ideas, pointers on how to get more reviews, but you got to get more reviews. That really guides their decision, right? I do agree most families do not shop, but again, the behavior, they're looking up at least your reviews just to check out, are you good, are you bad? Even a hospice referral, they're not shopping. They refer you, but I bet you they're still checking you out just to make sure you're good. If you're 3-star overall, why would they be using your firm? I wouldn't, right? So reviews are so critical. And then at the end of the day, you got to make sure your team knows how to answer these calls. The internet-based calls, they're more going to be shopping driven. We just call them shoppers. They're not really shopping, right? They're asking questions, but if you're not good in answering phones, you just lost that call. So the at-need side is actually super simple. There's really not that many strategies digitally. I wish there's more. But that's why it's going to be Google, having high converting websites, stellar reviews, and knowing how to answer your phone. It's that simple. Then once you conquer those, you want to continue to gain more market share, more calls. That's when you spend more time and money and energy on strategies up here. Going old school, that's why some firms, they run TV, radio, newspaper, right? Those type of strategies, do they still work? Yeah, they work. They still work, but it's more expensive relatively. But if it works, continue to invest dollars towards those offline media because they're very good in getting your name out there. Digitally, which I'll explain a little more, that's where social media, YouTube ads, display ads, banner ads, they're also great to push your name out there. Okay. So let's deep dive, look at ad needs first then. So let's first of all study Google, and this will also change the following year. So at the current moment, whenever we go on Google, type in funeral home near me, there's really 3 distinct sections that you can market your business. Right at the top, of course, these are ads. These are Google ads. Right below that is my favorite section because it's free. So I'll explain a lot more on the strategies over here. How does Google know which funeral home to recommend? And there's only 3 spots. That's it. Only 3. How does Google know if I'm here, which funeral home nearby are the ones that they will be recommending? And the algorithm is actually very simple. So I'll kind of go over with you how can you make sure your firm is listed here. Lastly, down here is organic search. Many of you here or heard about SEO, search engine optimization. Whenever people are talking about SEO, typically they're talking about this section here. It's basically, layman terms, is how highly ranked is your website. When I type in funeral home near me, how highly ranked it is. But if you look at the overall landscape these days, ads are up here. Next, the map listing is here. This section, I still love it, but it's pretty buried down, unfortunately. Okay. So let's start breaking up each of these sections again. Let's first of all talk about Google ads. Whether you love it or not, unfortunately, Google loves your money. They just love your money. The good old days of any platform, Facebook, Google, the free days are almost gone, right? These days, anytime you type in funeral home near me, plumbers near me, ads just show up. They're always above the fold. They want you to see those ads first. Again, I'm not loving it, but it is what it is.
Well, they paid Google, so they should get.
It's pay to play, unfortunately. It's sad. It is what it is, right? So what this means is if you are highly ranked in a map section right below it, or organically you're highly listed, your competitors can come in here and outrank you. That's the sad thing. So I always recommend, again, if you're a 200 call firm, you want to make sure you're doing 200 calls the following year. You also got to be thinking about how to protect. Protecting is not that easy as well. So I would really recommend, again, I'll give you some more examples, but you got to think a little bit more. Do you also want to be advertising in Google, right? These are pay-per-click ads. It costs you nothing when your ad appears. It's only when they click on it, that's when you have to pay. What's not fair is on mobile. On mobile, that's where most of the traffic do happen these days. More than 50 in metro areas, at least 60% on this tiny little device when they're Googling. And that first ad very often, unfortunately, just take up the whole real estate. Again, whether you love it or not, it is what it is. It's sad, but so they want you to see that first ad first. Under swipe, you see the second ad and the third ad. Finally, you see the free stuff. Okay, so when you are thinking about 2025 and you're thinking about protecting your market share, which is very critical, I always think about, first of all, how to protect. You got to fend off right? You got to have a super large mode so that way others don't come in and start gaining market share. This is where you might want to start thinking, hey, if I haven't done Google Ads yet, it's time I at least put a little bit of money towards it just to protect your market share, especially if you're very well branded, just like the Yellow Pages, right? When sometimes you go on Yellow Pages, okay, I heard of this company, this plumbing company, I'm just going to call. It's the same effect here then. Okay. And whenever you run these ads, I really highly recommend to really choose where you want to gain market share. The mistake is to do a super large radius, super large area. I would definitely start, let's say, most likely 5-mile radius. If you're super densely populated area, 3-mile radius. That means only if you're in that 3-mile radius, you're Googling a funeral home, then your ad will appear. The mistake is you do a super large radius, 10, 20-mile radius. Our family's going to drive all the way across town? Most likely not. Okay. Then last year is when a new section appeared on Google. This section is not new, by the way. It's just new to death care. This was introduced all the way back in 2015 for trades, for home improvement. So back in 2015, Google introduced this new section. This new section actually appears above the regular standard Google ads. And Google's trying to compete with Angie's, Home Advisors. Right now, they're one company. They're same company. But they're trying to figure out how to sell leads to plumbers, to roofers. They're like, we got the traffic. Why don't we just send traffic, the phone calls directly to these plumbers? So first of all, this is not new. So you can see this is a very different type of ad. These ads are there to bypass your website. It's there to make your phone ring. These standard ads is to send traffic to your website. Very, very different. So this now is finally in death care. It was introduced last year or the year prior. This to me is still the holy grail. Very little funeral homes are doing this. It's like me helping funeral homes running their Google ads 8-10 years ago. Very little firms are running Google ads, but almost tons of, right? These days you can see most funeral homes are running Google ads, but not too many of them are running these local services ads yet. So I really encourage you to study this, local service ads. It's called LSA. How it works is, let's see, right? So this is an example here. This is the local services ad. So all they do is just call. And how this works is, first of all, you can see you got to be screened by Google. Just like the trades, same thing. They get a different badge. It's called Google Guaranteed. So first of all, you have to go through paperwork with Google. They do background check on you, look at your insurances, just want to make sure you are legit. Once you go through the background check, then you get that Google screened little check mark right by your listing. And these ads, again, very, very different. They're there to make your phone ring. So I always get the question is, which of these ads should you focus on then? Now you get two different types of ads, right? They're going to be very different. So these standard ads, I love them. The main reason is people already know you when they call you because they already been to your website. From your website, they've done a lot of research already. When they call, they're warmer. Versus these local service ads, they haven't vetted you yet. All they know is you're screened by Google. When they call, they have no idea who you are. They're going to be asking a lot more questions. So if your team is not able to turn cold calls, right? Shopping calls, I wouldn't turn these on yet until they're trained. But this section here really still so far, whoops, yeah, it's still very, very economical to run these though. I'm curious, anyone try those ads yet? The local service ads? Okay, good. Yeah. So my prediction is so far, yeah, these ads, very little field homes are running this yet. You might still have a window of 2 to 3 years where you get to enjoy this before all the field homes start running this again. Then the cost per phone call will start to drastically go up. So I'll give you a reference. So for fun, just for reference, for trades right now, each phone call is about $100 to $125 just for a phone call.
That's what it costs.
Well, that's what it costs to make a phone ring. But to a trade, it makes sense. It's $125 per lead. It's not a real lead, right? It's a phone call. But if you're able to convert that into actual in-home estimate, that's not bad at all. Yes.
I know that Home Advisor and Angie's List, when they initially started, you would click on there and say you get the corner.
Yes.
They only give you information to cover fee. And it has the point where they're just selling your information to everybody, right? So now you don't get to be on this calling you. Does Google do the same thing? For instance, they clicked on our funeral home, they would take our information and they would sell it.
Good question. Right. So let me explain the difference. So you're right. So Google does it very differently. Since Google screen you, when they call, they're just calling you directly. It's not, hey, what's your information? Then they sell your information to 3 plumbers, and you have no idea which plumbing company is calling you. But this, you are calling them directly. Okay. So I really highly encourage you haven't dabbled into these Google screened, Google local services ads, really you got to jump in.
How do you start? Call Google up?
You call Google up. This is actually very simple. So you just Google.
Or you call Welcome up and say, well.
But this is something you easily can do. Everything I do over here, you can easily do it if you spend the time, right? So you just Google local service ads. From there, there's a number you can call in, and they'll walk you through how to do the background check. And I love these. Once you got the green check mark, it doesn't mean you got to advertise right away. Maybe when call volume is a little bit down, you put a little budget in there and then turn it on. This is one of those strategies you can turn on, off at any given time. You're not committed to a contract whatsoever. Okay? So this is definitely something you've got to make sure you're focusing on for next year. Okay? Then, good. Perfect. Next, let's talk about my favorite section of all, which is this section here. So Google only recommends 3 plumbers, 3 funeral homes, 3 barbershop nearby. That's it. And it's, to me, so far, it's still not a super good algorithm. Because there's nobody from Google calling you to interview you and see whether you're better than somebody else. So it's solely based on the few set algorithm that Google looks at. So let me kind of go over what does Google look at to see which firm should be listed here. And it's coming down to 3 distinct algorithm. The first algorithm is actually very simple. Is you got to make sure your Google listing is 100% complete. So what Google looks at is each funeral home has a free listing. That Google listing is so critical. That's how Google knows more about your firm. And most, by now, this 2024 going to 2025, most likely you already claimed your Google listing. But you got to put in more information in your Google listing, such as what do? You got to put in the products and services. You got to put in photos in there. You got to put in about us. This really is a mini version of your website. That's what Google is really trying to shoot for, is if I'm looking for a funeral home, now I see funeral homes. That's recommended by Google. Directly, a special mobile device, I just call. Or I just tap the listing and now I see a little bit of information about your firm. And those are all the information all I need. And I just call. That's what Google is really going after, is to bypass your website as much as it can. But it also means if you don't have a lot of these information filled out, how would Google know and why would Google recommend you? So what you definitely want to do is to update your Google listing. It's so simple these days. There's no portal for you to log in there to update your Google listing. All you have to do is you just go on Google itself, it's google.com. You type in your business name. The assumption is you are logged in to that Gmail account that you actually subscribe to the Google listing. So once you're logged in, you just Google your own business. You can see now you can update it live. For example, you can edit your profile, right? This is where you can update the profile. You can read the reviews. This is where you respond to reviews. You can update photos, edit your products and services, right? A lot of these are all on here. So there's no more excuse for not updating your Google listing. It's so simple.
When you update your Google listing, will that help your SEO ranking go up because you made some changes?
And the answer is yes and no. So the yes is because now you put in the product and services in there, Google knows more about your firm, right? If you're a Jewish firm, you got to update in here product, services, about us. You got to let Google know you are a Jewish funeral home. Or else, how does it know? Seriously, how would it know you're a Jewish funeral home? Or if you're mainly targeting Hispanic families, you got to put it on there, or else how would Google know? Right? So you got to make sure your Google listing is updated. Next, not a surprise, you got to get more reviews. Why would Google be recommending a 3-star firm? Okay, so you got to get more reviews. Lastly, it's a very strange algorithm that Google unfortunately still looks at. It's something called citations. So back in 2010 is when Google rolled out this algorithm. Google doesn't know whether you are a real business or not. Even though you've been around for multi-generation, it still doesn't know. So back in 2010, the locksmith, what they did, for example, or plumbers, they wanted to get ranked in multiple cities nearby in that map pack. So what they end up doing is they got fake addresses. Let me get a P.O. box here, a fake address here, let me borrow my friend's address here. That way they get ranked in all these cities nearby. So in order for Google to know whether that's a real address or not, because many small businesses, they actually do operate out of their home. They choose to get a P.O. box. So it's very hard for Google to know now who is real, who's not real. That's when it introduced an algorithm trying to cross-reference your Google listing, the information on Google listing, versus other major directories. If you're a real business, you should be listed on Facebook, on Bing, on Apple Maps, all those major critical directories. If you're listed on there, the more trust from Google. And there's a scanner, which is free. They're not going to call you. So you just go on moz.com/local, and you just have to put in your name, address, phone number. It'll let you know, hey, we haven't you claimed your listing yet. Where, right, sometimes it might list out information incorrectly in other directories. Now Google's confused when try to cross-reference. So this is something I would really, again, it's free. Just go on moz.com/local, just run the scanner. Hopefully you got most of those covered already. Okay. Lastly is organic. I'm not going to spend much time talking about this section down here. The main reason is, again, it's getting further buried down. But if you're investing time still in SEO, it's really a long-term strategy. It really is a long-term strategy. Those websites that's highly ranked on page 1 already, they've been there for a while. It's very, very hard. Let's say you're on second page. You got to be adding more and more content. At the end of the day, SEO is not hard. It really is coming down to content. More content, relevant content on your website, the more Google trusts you, the higherly ranked your website would be. And the bottleneck with this is most likely if you have a website, it looks more or less the same as another website, right? There's only a few handful of providers that builds good website. And when they build these websites for you, they will pre-populate the content for you. And those are good content. But those content looks exactly the same as another firm, maybe in another state, but same exact content. Now Google doesn't know which website should be highly ranked. So I really highly encourage you to go back and replace those content with your own content and add more content to your website. Yes.
I was talking with a group of firms about SEO, and one thing that they had said was you wanted to have a lot of verbiage on every page, and the more verbiage you had, SEO had more things to pull from. But then you look at other marketing strategies who say the less that you say, it's better because people aren't reading all of that stuff anyway. So on one hand, it seems like a colossal waste of time to come up with all of this verbiage on the pages, but is it sort of necessary?
Yeah. So this is a very, very good question here. So typically the website is written for conversion. That's the first thing is if you look at any websites, first of all, it has to convert. Well, I'll go over a short checklist shortly. But from SEO point of view, that's why you got to find a balance. If you don't have a lot of great content, helpful, that's what's Google looking at. It's how helpful is this content. The more helpful content on your website, the highly ranked it will be. So it doesn't need to be 1,000 words, 3,000 words. Right? It's as long as helpful, Google's getting better. If you got more helpful content, the more highly ranked it will be. But again, I totally agree. There's some websites that look super ultra clean. I love those websites. But it's very hard to get those websites ranked when you don't talk a lot more about who you are, what you do, how you're different, which cities do you serve. Right? So you got to find a good balance between helpfulness, SEO, and overall conversion. Yes.
Can that be done by non-navigable pages? So you create a page like a blog, but you can't navigate into it. It's just there purely for the SEO.
Yeah, very good question. So if you, again, Google loves blogs, right? So whenever you're adding more and more content to your website, because you already got good services pages, good about us pages, really there for ranking purposes, it's going to be more focused on SEO. It's going to be focused on blogs. So that's where the blogs come in. You'll be writing a lot of great content on your website in the form of a blog. And it could be, for example, right, anything that's helpful, right? Like a checklist for families or, right, things like that. But the big thing with those is, unfortunately, it has to be indexed by Google, or else it cannot find it. It's like a spider. Whenever Google comes to your website, it's crawling, trying to find content on your website. And from there, if it's not navigable, it cannot find it, then it will not find it then, right? Yeah, Ken? that will be a big, big ranking juice. It does. That's what Google's really looking at these days. Overall, how helpful is the website?
So to piggyback on that, does that mean to have a document with your GPL on it, or actually put your GPL in a web page?
Actually putting GPL on the website.
Just as a document on the website or a button that somebody could click on.
Actually listed on the website. Yeah, like a pricing page or on a homepage.
I see.
Yeah. Again, Google's really get helpfulness because it looks at all those metrics such as how long do people stay on website? Where are they going? Are they bouncing off? All those factors do go into there. Is why would Google be sending traffic to your website? Free traffic. If you're buying traffic, they don't care. If you're buying Google ads, but if you're trying to get ranked, those are signals it does look at. If a lot of people come to your website, they cannot find information, it's not easy to navigate, they're not calling you, they're not hitting these critical buttons, they're gone, Google will try to deprioritize those websites. Right? So it's actually a good segue into your website. But before I go over that, let me just talk about one big section here that's going to totally disrupt how Google looks like. And this is already appearing. Many of you, when you go on Google, you see this AI overview section already. Many of you do, right? So this appears above everything else. Right now, Google doesn't know where to put the ads. That's going to be a totally huge disruption to Google's own business. And Google is slowly rolling this out, this AI overview, very, very slowly. But it's going to be increasing it because ChatGPT now is a search engine as well. Perplexity, a lot of folks, not a lot, more people are switching to those AI tools instead of using Google. So Google has no choice to slowly and really increasing this section here so more people are staying on Google. But now Google's problem is where does it slot the ads? Where does local pack goes? So this is something Google's still trying to figure it out. So this is something that just continue to monitor it here and there, type in Fair Home near me and see what it is shows up then. Okay. And let's quickly go over your website. Again, I always get questions asked around websites. Is which website provider is better? They're all, from my point of view, they're all good websites. There's only a few handful of suppliers here. They all do good websites. But at the end of the day, it's going to be coming down to content. You got to be customizing a few of those things for yourself. So one thing here is, first of all, you got to have a sticky header. What does that mean? Is whenever people go on your website, especially from this tiny little phone, you got to make sure the phone number is tappable. That tap to call is so critical. Doesn't matter which page they go on. They got to be able to just tap and call you. Instead of opening up the menu bar, go down to Contact Us, trying to figure out where is your phone number. You got to make sure this is always floating as they're swiping on any pages. Ideally with a good call to action. For immediate needs, call and just tap. Next is, by now, most of the websites should be mobile friendly. And you got to make sure the website is loading fast. And Google provided a tool called Page Speed Insight. You just Google Page Speed Insight, putting your domain name in there, and Google will let you know how fast is your website loading. Again, it's very, very hard to get perfect score. What you're aiming for is not perfect score. You just want to make sure it's loading in that kind of yellowish zone. You should be good. Yes.
What if your Wi-Fi connection is bad?
Yeah. So this is very unbiased. So there's nothing to do with your Wi-Fi connection then. Yeah. But definitely, if you're using this tiny little device, if you're not connected, it's going to be loading slower.
That's
Right.
Page Speed Insight.
Yep, just Google Page Speed Insights.
INSITE.
Yeah. Right. And it will provide a score for you. And if it's not loading in the yellow zone, I will just send it to a web development company, have them try to speed it up for you. And very often when you get a new website, it loads fast. As you keep uploading more and more high resolution photos, pictures, and starts to slow down. Okay. Next, I purposely use this example. Is if I'm in the market looking for windows and doors, once I land on this website, right away, I know how they're different. Right? Over 85,000 quality installations, 29 years in business, 100 employees, serving greater Toronto area. Right away, I know how they're different. Look at your own behavior. Whenever you're in the market looking for something, you're hopping from one website to the next one to the next one, really trying to figure out how are they different. It's not always price driven. You're trying to figure out how are they different. You're doing your homework. That's the same thing. If they come to your website, it's so hard for them to find out who you are, what you do, how you're different. It's very hard for them to know which one to call first. And I can bet you, if I call you today over the phone, you would let me know how you're different. You just gotta be really, and I hate to say this, you gotta be able to be bragging more about yourself. It's very uncomfortable for you guys to be bragging about yourself, but you gotta make sure whenever they come to your website, they can tell right away how are you different. Okay. Next is credibility signals. If you got a lot of good reviews on Google, on Facebook, stream those reviews onto your website. Because remember, the journey is after the website, most likely they're checking out your reviews. But I don't want them to go back on the search engine to look at your reviews or to go on Facebook to check out your reviews. I want them to go on your website right away. They know how you're different with a lot of reviews to back it up. Most website providers, your web provider, they all have these tools. You just got to ask them, can you make sure to stream those reviews onto your website? Most of them do have this. I have no idea why it's not turned on by default, but they all should be able to stream those reviews for you. In the beginning, I'll say some newer firms, they don't have a lot of reviews yet. I would go old school. Those written testimonials, or you get a lot of surveys back, type those in and put it on your website. Right? Handwritten ones, they're great. Until you get a lot of those Google reviews, then you can fade these out then. Okay, but in the beginning, if you don't have a lot of reviews, I will go old school. Video testimonials, those are very, very hard to come by. But from a trust point of view, they're outrageously super high trust. And these days, this is going to be your friend. Please do not hire a professional videographer to be doing these video testimonials because they look like, right, infomercials. So with this, really, I would encourage you to do this. I'll do one with Sydney just for fun. Really is you just go selfie mode on video. Just stand, I'm assuming we're standing together. I would just do this, right? I would just really do this and just ask, right? Now they see both of us on camera, right? And just forward facing, just him doing the testimony. I would really be standing right by him and capture a short video then. Again, this is really going to be your friend. And on purpose, you don't want this to be perfect. That's the whole thing though. They'll come out very, very genuine. Now you got a bunch of these to put on your website, on social media. And there's got to be some families that really love you. You went out of your, right, and they love you, really just capture those on videos. But what I would advise you is to get a professional video done. That's a business profile video. So these business profile video is about a minute in length, not more than a minute. Once they come to your website, they see a video, they'll click on it and watch it first. And they get to see you on camera, they get to see how warm you are, they get to see faces. Faces means trust. Right away, it's that instant, wow, they trust you. So I really encourage you to get a video done. These days, it's not that outrageous expensive anymore. It used to be in thousands and thousands. These days, if you go on a website, it's smartshoot.com. Smartshoot.com. It's like a Craigslist for videographers. So you post on there, hey, I'm a funeral home looking for a 1 minute business profile video. And the local videographers will come and bid on the job for you. And they will be working with you on the scripts because that business profile video, that's a terminology all of them know, the syntax to it. And these days, it's about $500 to $700 has come down a lot though. So I really encourage you to get one of these made. Same thing, put it on the homepage or website in the About Us page. Next is really audit your About Us page. It's very critical. If somebody actually does land on your About Us page, they're really trying to figure out who you are, what you do, and how you're different. So you got to make sure, same thing, faces means trust. Even you have a separate direct cremation business, I will really still encourage you to put faces on there. Most direct cremation websites have no faces on there. Without faces on there, how would you trust them? So definitely if you have a direct cremation site, a separate one, please make sure to put faces on there. Yes, Tony?
You can't stop having owners.
Me personally, if it were me, I would put the owners and also the whole group photo. Yeah. The more the better. Okay. Good. So I'll wrap it up with reviews done. Sorry, I don't have time to go to social media, but I will just add on a few quick things that John went over already. But my belief is these days, very often, they're not purposely checking out your reviews. They're just Googling your brand name. That says hospice referral. Or they got one of your direct mail piece. Or they saw you somewhere. They'll Google your brand name. This is a homework for you. When they Google your brand name, what do they see on page 1? Of course, they're going to see your Google reviews. That's why John and I always talk about you got to get more Google reviews. That's the most critical. From credential point of view, from Google rankings point of view, Google is still king. However, Facebook, Yelp reviews very often, they do show up as well. And this is where sometimes you will see that you might not have very good reviews on Facebook or Yelp, and you got tons of reviews on Google. Now they're like, are these Google reviews fake? Very good question, you say that. So Yelp, I will say people use Yelp just for restaurants, home services, right? But on the West Coast, this is more West Coast driven. West Coast, still very, very Yelp driven. Yeah, even more than Google. It's automatically looking for some type of services. Even funeral homes, they draw even better traffic than Google then, right? Yeah. But even in other parts of the country, that's why it's like, do people go on Facebook and Yelp to look for funeral home? No. But these reviews do show up whenever they Google your brand name. That's why you got to be monitoring those as well. And sometimes you'll see other directories in your own neighborhood that might pop up as well. So just got to make sure there's really nothing much negative about your business on that first page then. Sometimes Glassdoor, Indeed reviews might pop up on there as well. Okay, so please, make sure you have good standing all the way down page 1. Okay. Perfect. Then I just want to quickly and wrap it up with this is give you guys a framework on how to deal with negative reviews. Hopefully, very, very rarely do you get any negative reviews. But step 0, I always laugh about it, is this is real. You just got to cool down. You just got to cool down. You will regret if you do something about it right away. Because we all poured our heart out to serve that family. And when a negative review comes in, automatically we're in that mode where we might want to fight back. But that's please cool down, go grab drink of water, then come back. And there's a reason why they left that negative review is they want to be heard. So definitely is you want to reach out to them right away. The overall strategy is take it from online to offline. When you call them up is really try to figure out why they're not happy. In the best case scenario, this happens all the time. Might be just miscommunication. If you're able to make them happy, most likely they're gonna go back, either take that negative review down or move it up to 5-star. That really does happen very, very frequently if you're able to do damage control right away. Okay. And Yelp is a little more sophisticated, which Google will be adopting shortly next year. Google, so far, you can only send a public comment. You cannot do a private message. With Yelp, you can send a private message to that reviewer. And the reason to send a private message first is you want to have paper trail. You're telling Yelp, indeed, you did reach out to this family. Because if you just call them right away, which you should, if you call them right away, there's no paper trail. How would Yelp know that you actually did reach out to that person? So that's why Yelp to me is a little bit more complicated, that you get to message them with a direct message. Especially if it's a fake review. At least you're sending a direct message to that reviewer, have no idea who you are. Okay. Then step 2 is where if you're not able to make them happy, and we cannot make everybody happy, this is where you want to leave a public comment. That public comment will stay there forever. So be very, very careful when you're leaving a public comment is you don't want to start a war. I've seen threats back and forth publicly between the family and the funeral home. Oh my God. I've seen those back and forth. It's so ugly. It's public. That's not good, right? So really be a little more careful on that public comment front. Then step 3 is then you get to appeal, right? There's always that little flag, you flag it. There's a drop down and you say why, you put your reasons why does a fake review what you did. But I can guarantee very often that's what most funeral homes do. They go straight and just hit the flag. Why would Yelp or Google take it down? That's why you got to have paper trail that you did indeed reach out to the family. The more likely they will take it down. But at the end of the day, I agree with John. You just got to get a lot more positive reviews. It's very strange behavior these days. If you're a 5-star business, let's say you've got 100 reviews, that's 5-star. Yeah, it's like people don't trust you. You're better in that 4.7, 4.8 range. Right? That's actually better though. So don't get upset. I know I get funeral home owners that call me, it's like, "Oh, we just got a negative review. And they're 5-star. I'm like, actually, that's good. Right? Don't be so upset about it then. Okay. So let me wrap it up here. Sorry, I don't have time to go over other fun stuff, but you guys have those slides. Okay, so let me wrap it up here with the funnel again. So for 2025, first of all, is I really want you to look at Google first. Really go, once you get home, first of all, is Google your own brand name first. See what shows up on first page of Google, right? Then next is type in funeral home near me and see who in your area are advertising up there. Then I would just invest a little bit of time, get that green check mark done first. That Google badge is very critical. Then if you need it, then you turn it on. When you don't need the local services ads, turn it off. And also trying to figure out whether it makes sense to run Google ads just to protect your market share. The larger you are, the more you got to be thinking about, you got to protect your market share. Then you got to make sure you are, when you type in funeral home near me, your firm is ranked in one of the 3 listings. If not, go look at your Google listing. It's 100% complete. Do you have more reviews? And also use that Moz scanner to make sure you got all these citations, directories claimed. Then really focus on your website, right? Go through that checklist again. Make sure you got the credentials in there, easy for people to click on. Your website loads fast. Get some videos done, right? Video testimonials is huge though. You got to get some videos done. Lastly is tackle reviews, and really you got to get better at answering your phones because your phone's ringing. Most likely you're not converting those calls. Okay. Then, sorry, I don't have time to talk about the fun stuff up here, but it's where social media come into play. It's more for branding, getting your name out there. Are we good? Good. Thank you.